A torrent of dirty money, the lifeblood of organized crime, flowed from the rain-slicked streets of the United Kingdom to the sun-drenched metropolis of Dubai. This wasn't a trickle, it was a deluge. Over $104 million, the ill-gotten gains from drug trafficking and other shadowy enterprises was spirited away. The method was not one of complex digital transfers or clandestine dead-of-night handoffs. It was a crime committed in plain sight, the cash nestled within the checked baggage of seemingly ordinary airline passengers, smiling their way through business class. This is the story of Operation Brightly, the National Crime Agency's painstaking investigation into one of the largest and most audacious cash smuggling rings in British history, a network built on a foundation of greed, glamour, and a glaring security loophole that had been overlooked for years. At its heart were a quiet, meticulous mastermind from Dubai, a charismatic British recruiter who became his indispensable lieutenant, and a cast of social media influencers, former models, and everyday people drawn into a world of high-stakes crime, blinded by the promise of luxury and easy money. He did not fit the archetype of a criminal kingpin. Abdullah Mohammed Ali bin Bayat al-Falasi, an Emirati national in his late 40s, presented an image of quiet respectability. He was a family man with a diplomatic-sounding surname and a clean passport, a far cry from the violent reputation often associated with those who move in the criminal underworld. There was no flashy profile, no entourage of menacing figures. Yet, from his base in Dubai, a global hub for finance and gold, Al-Falasi architected a sophisticated and highly lucrative money laundering machine that operated with the precision of a legitimate logistics company. His method was deceptively simple in concept, yet brilliant in its exploitation of systemic weaknesses: cash in the UK, gold in Dubai. For a commission of around 10%, Al-Falasi offered a full-service, white-glove solution to organized crime groups desperate to get their dirty sterling out of Britain. He handled every aspect of the laundering process, from the physical collection to the final conversion into a clean, untraceable asset. The operation began on a smaller scale, a series of test runs to probe for weaknesses. On New Year's Day, 2020, Al-Falasi himself played the role of courier. He flew from London's Heathrow to Dubai with 11 suitcases, declaring just under £700,000 upon arrival. This was a trial run, a proof of concept to test the procedures in Dubai. The declaration was accepted without issue. Over the next few months, he personally carried nearly $6 million across 10 flights, each trip confirming the viability of the route and solidifying the process before he decided to scale up dramatically. To give his illicit enterprise a veneer of legitimacy, a crucial element for the Dubai side of the operation, Al-Falasi registered a company called Omnivest Gold Trading LLC. This wasn't just a shell, it was a functioning entity designed to withstand scrutiny. Couriers were furnished with professionally printed, forged letters on this company letterhead, falsely authorizing them to transport large sums of cash for business purposes, specifically for the purchase of gold. Al-Falasi was meticulous in his planning, a micromanager of crime. He personally booked all flights for his couriers, always in business class to take advantage of the generous baggage allowance, often up to 4 large suitcases per person. He remotely managed their itineraries, all while collecting a trove of Emirates Air miles on his personal account, a detail that speaks to his audacity. He remained a distant, almost phantom-like figure to the couriers, a silent partner pulling the strings from the safety and sunshine of Dubai, a name they knew, but a face they never saw. While Al-Falasi was the architect, Michelle Clark was the operations chief recruitment officer and on-the-ground handler. A British mother of 2 from Leeds, Clark had relocated to Dubai with her family, seemingly for a fresh start in the sun. In reality, the former Sky TV executive assistant was building a criminal network with remarkable speed and efficiency. She became Al-Falasi's most trusted deputy, the crucial link between the mastermind in Dubai and the ever-growing stable of couriers in the UK. Clark was the perfect front. She was persuasive, articulate, and exuded an air of calm professionalism. To her recruits, she presented herself as someone who could have worked for an embassy or a high-powered consultancy. This persona was vital in convincing ordinary people to carry millions of pounds in cash across international borders. Most of her recruits never met her in person. Their interactions were confined to the digital realm, creating a layer of separation and security. To maintain absolute control and ensure secrecy, Clark established a WhatsApp group with the disarmingly innocent name Sunshine and Lollipops. This emoji-filled chat was the nerve center of the entire smuggling operation. It was here that the veneer of a fun, adventurous job was maintained, even as the instructions became more rigid. Couriers were personally vetted by Clark before being added to the group. Once inside, they received detailed, step-by-step instructions for each trip. Check in at exactly 3:15 p.m. If asked, say you are attending a jewelry conference. Send a photo of the baggage tags once checked. The level of detail was immense. Communication was strictly limited to the encrypted chat. Phone calls and outside messages were strictly forbidden. Each courier was instructed to use a new burner phone for every journey, wiping the device clean upon their return and awaiting the next set of instructions. Clark handled all the logistics, booking flights on Alpha Lassi's credit card and emailing the forged OmniVest authorization letters. Her fee for this vital role was a cut of the profits, while the couriers received between $3,000 and $8,000 per trip, plus a luxury, all-expenses-paid stay at some of Dubai's finest hotels. The genius of Alpha Lassi and Clark's scheme lay in the profile of their couriers. They were not hardened criminals with long rap sheets. They were a motley crew of individuals who could blend in seamlessly at a business-class check-in desk. Social media influencers projecting a life of glamour, ex-models, corporate types, and ordinary people facing financial hardship. They were offered what seemed like the perfect gig: thousands of pounds for a few days' work, with the assurance that it was a legitimate, if unconventional, job. The mantra was, "It's not drugs, it's not weapons, it's just cash, and we have the paperwork to prove it." Among them was Tara Hanlon, a 30-year-old recruitment consultant from Leeds. The COVID-19 pandemic had hit her finances hard, and she found herself drowning in debt. The offer from Clark seemed like a lifeline, a chance to live the best life she saw on her social media feed. The money was intoxicating. She made 3 successful runs, smuggling a total of $3.5 million, the thrill and financial reward growing with each trip, before her luck spectacularly ran out. Others were drawn in from different walks of life. Jo Emma Larvin, a former model known for a past relationship with boxer Joe Calzaghe, was approached by Clark in Knightsbridge. She agreed to a trip for $3,000 and later brought her partner Jonathan Johnson into the fold. Johnson, an executive recruitment professional, initially had reservations, texting Larvin that the luggage looked ridiculous, but the lure of the money proved too strong. Together, they smuggled nearly £3 million. Beatrice Audi, a 26-year-old from Fulham with a media background, was initially hesitant, asking probing questions. But Clark's reassurances and professional demeanor won her over. Audi became so trusted that she eventually began organizing trips for other couriers, a promotion that would later lead to a longer prison sentence. The network was diverse. Nicola Essen, a 56-year-old from Leeds, flew under the radar for months, a seemingly unremarkable middle-aged woman who carried an astonishing 99 suitcases filled with nearly $6.5 million over just 3 journeys. Mohammed Ilyas, on the other hand, kept a low profile, making solo trips until a lost suitcase containing £431,000 turned up at Heathrow and put him on the authorities' radar. Some, like Megan Reeves, who was arrested alongside Tara Hanlon, joined through friends desperately hoping to clear their debts. Others included Paige Henry and Stacey Borg. Each courier, whether they genuinely believed the operation was legitimate or simply chose not to ask questions, shared a common, fatal belief: they would never get caught. The operation was a well-oiled machine, a testament to Alfalassi's logistical planning. The cash, primarily the proceeds of drug trafficking, was collected from criminal gangs across the UK. It was then transported to a series of counting houses, nondescript rented flats in central London, deliberately kept sparse. They were devoid of furniture but equipped with the essential tools of the trade: tables, industrial-grade scales, vacuum sealers, and reams of plastic wrap. Here, in these anonymous rooms, the cash was processed. The air would have been thick with the musty smell of old banknotes, the scent of ground coffee, and the chemical tang of cleaning products. Workers would count and sort the money into bundles of approximately £500,000 per suitcase. Each case, weighing around 40 kilograms, was meticulously packed. The bricks of sterling notes were vacuum sealed and placed at the bottom, creating a dense, uniform layer. On top, a benign cover of ordinary clothes and toiletries was arranged. To thwart airport sniffer dogs, the smugglers employed a crude but effective tactic. The bundles of cash were doused with coffee grounds, mouthwash, and scented dryer sheets, a desperate attempt to mask the unmistakable smell of money. The success of the entire operation hinged on a critical loophole in UK airport security. The sophisticated 3D scanners used at major airports like Heathrow are programmed to detect threats based on density and shape, explosives, weapons, and other dangerous items. They are not, however, programmed to flag large quantities of cash. The uniform density of stacked banknotes often registers as innocuous material, like books or paper, and the image flashes past the security operator's screen without a second glance. While UK law requires travelers to declare cash exceeding £10,000 when leaving the country, the system relies almost entirely on an honor code. There were no routine checks, no luggage scans specifically for currency. This was the gaping hole the network exploited with ruthless efficiency. Once the couriers landed in Dubai, the process was equally streamlined. They would proceed to the customs declaration point and present the forged authorization letter from Omnivest Gold Trading. To the customs officials, the paperwork appeared legitimate, the story plausible. The bags were waved through. In the arrivals hall, handlers would be waiting to meet them for a quick and clean exchange. For months, the system worked flawlessly, a river of criminal cash flowing undetected from one global city to another. The entire multi-million-pound enterprise began to crumble on a single day, October 3, 2020. Tara Hanlon and her travel companion, Megan Reeves, wheeled 5 large suitcases, heavy with cash, into Heathrow's Terminal 5, breezily telling check-in staff they were off on a girls' trip. But this time, they were being watched. Border Force officers, acting on intelligence, had them under surveillance. A specially trained detection dog, tasked with sniffing for currency, locked onto the scent. Hanlon was pulled aside. The facade shattered instantly. Inside her suitcases, officers found £1.99 million in banknotes. Hanlon's arrest was the loose thread that, when pulled, unraveled the entire network. An examination of her phone was a digital goldmine for investigators. It contained messages to and from Michelle Clark, notes on what to say and how to behave, and damning evidence of her 3 previous successful trips. Most importantly, it led investigators to the Sunshine and Lollipops group chat, opening a window into the full scale of the operation and providing a list of other couriers. The National Crime Agency, NCA, worked in silence, meticulously piecing together the puzzle. It was a painstaking process of digital forensics and data analysis. They traced flight bookings, analyzed baggage weights from airline records, and used passenger name record, PNR, data to link couriers who traveled together. The arrests came in waves. Zdenek Kamarit, a Czech national, was caught just weeks after Hanlon with $1.3 million in his luggage, carrying the same forged Omnivest paperwork. Then, in March 2022, Joe Emma Larvin and Jonathan Johnson were arrested at Manchester Airport. Others, like Amy Harrison, were apprehended in a series of coordinated raids on their homes. Each arrest unlocked new evidence: more phones, more messages, more booking data, more email receipts. Every digital trail led back to the same Emirates flight account, the same credit card used for bookings, the same company letterhead on the forged letters, and, ultimately, to two names: Michelle Clark, the recruiter, and the shadowy figure behind it all, Abdullah Al-Falasi. For the couriers still at large, it must have been a time of immense paranoia, wondering if every knock on the door was the one they had been dreading. For months, Abdullah Al-Falasi remained a ghost, his name at the center of the investigation, but his person safely out of reach in Dubai. With no immediate prospect of extradition, the case against the kingpin stalled. The NCA had built a mountain of evidence, but without the main target on UK soil, they could not act. Then, in December 2021, Al-Falasi made a fatal, inexplicable error. Driven by what can only be described as extreme hubris, he traveled to London with his wife and children for what appeared to be a personal visit, staying in a high-end apartment in the luxurious Belgravia district, owned by his in-laws. It is still unclear why he took such an astonishing risk. Perhaps he believed he was truly invisible, that the trail of arrests of low-level couriers had not led back to him. Whatever his reasoning, the NCA was ready. They had been monitoring him, and his arrival in the UK triggered an alert. They moved in quietly and arrested him. The seizure of his 3 phones provided the final damning pieces of the puzzle. Photos of couriers' passports, messages planning handovers, detailed itineraries, and even pictures of suitcases overflowing with cash. He had meticulously documented his own criminal enterprise. At Isleworth Crown Court in the summer of 2022, the final act played out. Abdullah Al-Falasi pleaded guilty to removing criminal property from the UK. The judge, describing the operation as a considerable network under his charge, sentenced him to 9 years and 7 months in prison. A confiscation order followed, seizing millions in assets. The couriers faced their own reckoning. Their sentences varied depending on their level of involvement and cooperation. Tara Hanlon, whose arrest had cracked the case open, was sentenced to 34 months in prison. Beatrice Auti, due to her deeper organizational involvement, received a longer sentence of 42 months behind bars. Others, like Jo Emma Larvin, Jonathan Johnson, Nicola Essen, and Amy Harrison, received suspended sentences after pleading guilty and cooperating. Michelle Clark, the central handler and recruiter, remains under investigation in Dubai. She has not left the UAE since late 2020 and is currently barred from travel, a wanted person by UK authorities. The case of the Sunshine and Lollipops gang serves as a stark reminder of the vast and intricate web of global money laundering, a world where the lines between the ordinary and the criminal can become dangerously blurred by the intoxicating allure of easy money and a life lived, however briefly, in luxury.